Welcome to another edition of Talk City Greensboro, produced by GTN, featuring interviews and events happening around town. It's an easy way to stay in the know while you're on the go. Subscribe to Talk City on iTunes, Pandora, Google Play, or SoundCloud. You also have the City of Greensboro's YouTube channel as an option. Doing what we can to ensure you're up to speed with the activities of the Gate City. I'm your host, Rodney Dawson. My co-host, Rosemary Plybon, is away today, but she left me in good hands with our guests. But she sends her well wishes to our guest today as well. She really wanted to be here, but she's taking vacation time with the family. And we've been honored to have several guests in the past, our Greensboro Police Department, Folks Festival officials, County Register of Deeds, the Triad Black Farmers Market, and other organizations such as Families Against Senseless Killings and more. And the goal is to do our best to inform and highlight good things and people in Greensboro, and today is no exception. Joining me today is our representative from the 6th Congressional District, none other than Representative Kathy Manning. Thank you for coming to the Gate City.
My pleasure. I'm glad to be with you today.
Well, we're glad to have you here and appreciate you making time to stop by Talk City. I was doing a little homework on you beforehand, and I found out you were from the great state of Michigan.
Yes,
That's my
I am.
terrible accent.
Yeah.
And so it made me think, and you sing too.
I do.
Yeah.
I did.
You did? When's the last time you showcased your voice?
I think it's been a while.
It's been a while?
I've been too busy in Congress trying to get things done for this district.
I got it. Now, do you miss the Radcliffe, the Radcliffe Pitches?
Radcliffe Pitches. I started that all-women's close harmony group when I was a freshman in college, and we still get together for reunions. We get together and sing. All the women that I sang with back many, many years ago, we get together on a regular basis and still sing together.
Well, good news. Good. You need that balance.
Absolutely.
I'm sure. And what also intrigued me, it's not a question that I sent beforehand, but you're from Detroit, Michigan, and your father worked for Ford Motor Company in Detroit, Michigan.
Yes,
so
he did.
He's in the heart of hearts.
Yep.
And back during its prime, I'm assuming, the 60s and 70s,
Yes.
he was there. So
Yes.
unions were strong. American car was the way to go. So what was it like growing up in that atmosphere in Michigan during that time with your dad?
Well, Detroit was cool back then. It was the 5th largest city in the country. We had the big three. Everybody I knew had their dad worked for one of the big three auto companies. That was the heyday of the Mustang. My dad was actually involved in building the Mustang, the Thunderbird. There were just, cars were everything. And Detroit was a vibrant, thriving city. We also had Motown. Think about what the music was back then. It was a great time to live in Detroit. And I still have family there. I still go back there on a regular basis. Detroit's been through some tough times, but it is clawing its way back.
I've watched you ever since I met you when you came to an event I did at the museum. I was with the Greensboro History Museum. And I've seen you at other events. You seem to be at home in front of any audience. You can go into an African-American church. You can go into the Tanger Center with a bunch of donors. And you can go to the Triad Black Farmers Market, Juneteenth celebration. So did that come from Detroit because it was so diverse, or just traveling the way you have?
I don't know where that came from. I just love being with people. Okay. And one of the things that I did not know I would enjoy when I first decided to run for office, I didn't know I would enjoy getting out with people from all across the community, all across the district, and just talking to them and finding out what keeps them up at night. What are the things they worry about? What are their hopes and dreams? And one of the best parts of being in this job is having the opportunity to talk to people and get into all different parts of our community. Now, I worked across different segments of our community before I ever got into politics. So that was something that I was already doing to some extent, but there is nothing like being a member of Congress. And if you're doing your job right, you're getting all across the community and talking to people in their homes, in their churches, in their synagogues, in their places of business, in our great parks, our museums, and just seeing what's going on and seeing what's working, seeing what's not working, and figuring out how can I be helpful as a member of Congress to the people all across this district.
Well, that's a great answer. I have a better understanding of why you're so at ease. but you've traveled too. And it's great to have our representative as a resident in Greensboro. We like to say, even though you, by way of Detroit, spent some time in the Northeast when you went to school at Harvard, but you're still Greensboro now.
Absolutely.
So,
well, I've been here for more than 37
right.
years, so this is definitely home.
Right. So so we like to say, hey, she's from our town, that type thing. And so it's a source of pride for us. But after living in the northeastern part where you went to school in the Midwest while attending, you also went back to law school at University. Was it
Yes,
University
I
of
did.
Michigan?
University of Michigan. Go Blue.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
Oh, you got a championship. You just celebrated. Lost your coach, though.
It's been a while, but yes.
Right. Well, Detroit might show up this year for the Super Bowl for you, the Lions I'm talking about. But what influenced you? What made you in 1987? I think you moved here. What made you say, let's make Greensboro home?
Well, my husband grew up here in Greensboro, and I met him at the University of Michigan Law School. We practiced law, both of us practiced law in Washington, D.C. for, I think, close to 6 years. Then we had our first child, and we wanted to be near family. And so he convinced me that we had been to Greensboro many times. I had started to understand what a uniquely great community this is. And we decided to come here. And my husband, my father-in-law wanted help with his business. My husband went into his family business. I found a job at a great law firm, really outstanding law firm. And we sort of jumped in and got involved with the community in all kinds of different ways. And Greensboro is just, I really do believe it's a uniquely great city with incredible people. And I consider myself extremely lucky to have landed here, to have raised my family here, developed my career here, and just gotten to know so many wonderful people here.
I echo that too. I'm working on a documentary about Dr. George Simpkins Jr. And in it, I met so many people, and I've looked and I said, how some areas they have, there's an area in South Carolina that put out some terrific NBA players. And so people say it's in the water. In Indiana, they say that about basketball. Here, for me, it's social justice. It seems like it's just in the water. A lot of people played a part in this. The Quakers, merchants from the Jewish textile industry that came here, all played a part. But it set up this wonderful dynamic for all these people that made strides in social justice to the point where former Congressman John Lewis said, if they can do it in Greensboro, you can do it anywhere. So Greensboro is underestimated, and it's very unique and has a very strong history, and it needs persons to help run it. And we talked about your bio, the travels you've done, and you're a people person. But your initiatives in the workforce development, plus your work in education, is just close to my heart, including early childhood access to education, and your work with the HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities. This central theme I'm coming up with from your efforts is people-centered, which you've touched on, improving lives for all. However, particularly the tradition of underrepresented and marginalized groups that you've put an emphasis on. Where did this come from, or who or what instilled this in you early on?
So I think, as I said, I love this community, and I have been so privileged to work here, raise my family here. I've gotten to know people all through some of the community boards I've sat on and the community organizations I've worked in. I've gotten to know people all across the community. And like everybody else here, I lived through that terrible, wrenching loss of our textile companies here back in the 1990s and early 2000s, and I saw what it did to families, people who lost their jobs, people who'd had great jobs for a long time, all of a sudden were out of work, didn't have the kinds of skills they needed to get good jobs. We really had to find our footing as a community to figure out how we could rebuild. And I saw people struggling to make ends meet. I saw people who had to leave this community to go find jobs elsewhere. I saw the decline of our downtown. And at the law firm, I was a partner, and I saw that it was harder for us to attract the best and the brightest to come to Greensboro because we were really struggling. And through involvement with United Way, NCCJ, I saw what happened when our schools were underfunded, and I saw how tough it was not just to educate our kids, but to retain good teachers.
Right.
And I also saw what happened to kids from disadvantaged homes when they started kindergarten. If they'd never been exposed to any preschool, they were already behind their peers. And I had my own struggles. When my youngest daughter was diagnosed with a chronic illness, I fought with our insurance company. You know, they gave me the runaround because they didn't want to cover the life-saving medication that she needed. And it really made me think about, what do other people go through? Because I know how many people were going through such tough times with the loss of so many jobs here. And I have to say that my faith tradition has instilled in me the obligation to help other people and to try to make our world and more specifically our community a better place. So I really looked for opportunities to help this community grow and regain its footing and to try to have a positive impact.
So you're intentional about it. You wake up every day with a purpose.
I think I am privileged to be in a position where I can try to help others, and that is what I love to do.
Mm-hmm. You remind me of someone I know. You know, Shirley Fry.
One of my heroes.
Same here.
I just adore Shirley Fry. She has been through some incredible things, and she is the most gracious, positive person. I just think she's a role model for all of us in this community.
And speaking with her, you sounded just like her. She said she's intentional about serving and trying to make life better for those around her.
Well, to be compared to Shirley Fry is a real compliment, so I thank you for that.
Well, I know you both, so I feel good about myself, too. And selfishly, I'm talking about Greensboro. And for those that might consider this news, I'll state that within the past 4 years of serving in Congress, you brought over $500 million to the Triad via tax cuts for families with children, to our infrastructure and community project investments, and much more. And how did we benefit, or will we continue to benefit from those efforts?
So, as I was just saying, when I first came to Greensboro, if you needed anything for a charitable or a community organization, you went to those big 5 textile companies, or you went to our big insurance company that used to be headquartered here, and we are still a charitable community, but we've lost those huge corporations that we could go to for funding, and when I got to Congress, I realized that now I had an opportunity to bring our taxpayer dollars back home to help us do things that we used to be able to do because we had so many big companies who were charitable here. But we now, not only do we have greater needs, but we didn't have necessarily the same charitable resources. And there were things that I felt we needed to do to help our businesses to grow, to help our families take care of their children, to help our school kids get the education they needed, to help clean up our environment, to provide our places our families could walk and exercise and gather, to help keep our communities safer. We need to make sure that we're supporting our law enforcement and giving them the tools they need to help us when we're in trouble. And I learned when I got to Congress that we would have an opportunity to request community project grants. And when I learned that we'd be able to do that, we put out the word to our elected officials, our nonprofits, our school systems to say, we're going to get to submit these project requests. I need the best grant requests that I can get so that I can go fight for them in Congress. And that's exactly what we did. Our community gave me great projects to submit. My team and I figured out which were the strongest that would have the biggest impact on the community, and then we fought for those. And I have brought back, I think I had a number here somewhere, and let me see what it was for the whole district. Just more than $57.4 million in community projects. And that's, of course, the whole district. But in Greensboro alone, I've been able to bring back $4 million to help create the Greenway, which is something that helps people keep healthy, get out there and exercise and see their neighbors. $1.1 million for the Bingham neighborhood remediation, that park area that is contaminated, that we need cleaned up. $850,000 to the Guilford County Schools for their Building a Better Battery Workforce project, because we've got that new Toyota electric battery factory. We need to make sure we've got the workers that they need. $500,000 for Habitat for Humanity to help build homes. We have a terrible shortage of affordable housing. Funding for the depot, funding for emergency shelter in Guilford County. $1 million for the city of Greensboro for the Windsor Chavez Nocho Community Complex development, which is going to be huge
beautiful
project.
Facility. Yeah,
it is going to be fantastic. Money for Second, $1 million for Second Harvest, $2 million for the Nussbaum Center for that steel house center that they're renovating, that old steel house factory, and it's going to be for small innovative businesses to grow. It'll have a commercial kitchen. It's in a neighborhood where we need good jobs and good development. We got $621,000 for a one step further for their Gate City Coalition Cure Violence model programming. We got to figure out ways we're going to stop the gun violence, keep our communities safe. $300,000 for Guilford Child Development, because we've got to have more child care, good, well-trained child care providers. $1 million for United Way of Greensboro for job counseling, career training. $4 million for the city of Greensboro for the Elm Eugene Street Gateway Complex. That's an area that has needed to be cleaned up and renovated for a long time, and this will really help us do that. $1.5 million for Hayes Taylor Y for child care expansion.
That's my Y.
If you've been over there, so you know it. They have great child care right now.
My daughter used to be there.
There you go. And they need to expand. They need to take more kids. And so we were really excited to be able to get that funding. We got $2 million. After COVID, we found that there were so many kids who were struggling to get back to school. They really were great learning losses. We were able to get $2 million for tutoring, what they call a high-intensity tutoring program, where college kids would come in and tutor K through 12 kids. Okay. And not only did we see leaps and bounds ahead with the kids who got the tutoring, but those college kids, many of them decided that they like teaching. And so they want to continue to be teachers. We got a lot of funding for the Greensboro Police Department to help them with their high-speed education network access pilot program. We also got money for to upgrade their first responders technology, so that hopefully you don't ever need to call 911. But if you do, you want to make sure that the person who picks up that phone has all the information that they need to help you. And that was their computer-aided dispatch system. So we've brought home all, and this is just in community grants project. We helped get a grant for North Carolina A&T, more than $23 million to help them with one of their new projects. They are educating the future clean technology workers. Okay. And not only for people who are students there, but for students who may not be enrolled full-time, but want to get credentials that they call them stackable credentials that they can either eventually use when they go to college, or help them get good jobs that are looking for those kinds of credentials. We just got, I think, more than $24 million for clean buses in Greensboro and Guilford County. We need more clean buses to help us clean up our energy and clean up our environment. And there are other areas where we've been able to help get funding, but those are our tax dollars that we're bringing back home to help us do things to invest in our people and invest in our community. And
none of that happens overnight. So you stay on the run, as we used to say.
That's exactly right. We need to, we've got so many good things going for us in this community now, because people have been working hard to develop new businesses from some of our big companies. I just was out at Volvo Mack Truck 2 weeks ago. They're doing great things out there. Those are great jobs. And we've got some great chips manufacturers that have been assisted through the Chips and Science Act that we passed thanks to the Biden-Harris administration. We're rebuilding our chips industry here in this country. We've got huge infrastructure that's now being rebuilt thanks to the infrastructure law that we passed. So it's not just through the community projects, it's also through some of the big bills we've been able to pass, particularly in the last Congress.
And I know directly some folks that have benefited from it. I'm in a fraternity, and two of my fraternity brothers have left their longstanding jobs to work for Toyota. And the raise in the compensation, the increase in their salaries, right? Higher wages have made a difference for them and their families in the direction. Like one guy got a job and decided to pursue his doctorate because he can afford it now. And so
it's awesome. And then the other thing that we've done is we've really focused on bringing down costs. And I mentioned the struggle I had with my own daughter's health insurance. I mean, our insurance company, when she had a health issue, I have talked to people all across this district who just struggle to pay for their prescription drugs. And thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act that we passed in the last Congress, we've brought the cost of insulin down, which just that alone, bringing the cost of insulin down to $35 a month, has had a massive impact in helping people get the prescription medication that they need. And now we're working, finally, thanks to that act, the government has the ability to negotiate with Big Pharma to bring down the cost of those medications that people need to keep themselves healthy. That's going to have a huge impact on people.
All right. I'm gonna talk geography just for a second before we get you out of here. You cover Guilford, Rockingham, Caswell, and Forsyth counties. Am I missing one?
Right now, well, my first term, I also covered all of Winston-Salem. Then they redrew the maps. They took most of Winston-Salem. I have a little bit of Winston. Still have all of Kernersville. Pleasant Garden is a great community that I visit often. So all of Guilford County, little bit of Forsyth, and now all of Rockingham and almost all of Caswell.
Okay. Do you find, like, when you travel outside of your district, particularly I'm speaking of in D.C., do we have a footprint? Do people know who Greensboro? Do they know the 6th District? Do they know the impact we have in our state, in our region?
Well, they know when I start talking about it, they do, because I always talk about all the great, not only do I talk about how great the people are and what a nice place it is to live, but I do talk about the great things that we have here. And when I go into Rockingham County, Caswell County, and we try to spend a lot of time there because we want to make sure we're representing them as well as we represent Guilford County. What I find is that people are dealing with the same challenges. They have the same struggles, whether they're right here in Greensboro or across the district. Everybody's worried about affordable housing. Everybody's worried about costs of food and education. Everybody's worried about, can they get the right training for the jobs they need? People are worried about child care. It's just a huge issue, and we are trying to do more and more on the federal level to make child care more affordable. And of course, healthcare. The other thing that people are worried about, and we haven't touched on this yet, is protecting women's reproductive rights, which has been a growing challenge, and that is it doesn't matter what part of the county I go to, people are worried about what's the future. Why are my daughters going to have less rights than I do, or I did, and my mother did? And so we've worked really hard to make sure that we understand what's going on all across the district. Of course, we visit a lot more farms when we're up in Rockingham and Caswell, although we've got some great farms we visited here in Guilford County. We've got a farm bill we're trying to get passed, so we want to make sure we understand what the farmers need. Of course, we have this great farm out at A&T, and if you haven't been there, it's extraordinary the work that they do there to make sure that our farmers have the technology they need to be as productive as possible.
How often are you in D.C.?
The schedule is supposed to work so that we're in D.C. 3 to 4 days a week for 3 weeks, and then we're supposed to be home for that 4th week so we can get out in the district and see people. It almost never works that way.
Okay.
And so I think we had one period of time where we were in D.C. Now, I'm always home on the weekends, but in D.C. 10 weeks in a row, rather than 3 on and then 1 at home. And that was just because this particular Congress, the last 2 years, it's been a struggle to get things done and to pass the bills, the legislation, just to get our budget passed. It's been more difficult than it was in the prior Congress.
And let me ask you this here too. Let's say I'm trying to, find out what they think of us all across the country. Let's say you're back in Washington, you're at a luncheon with several of your colleagues and that are not familiar with the Triad or the 6th District, specifically Greensboro, and someone asks you, what should I do or try when I visit the Gate City? What are one or two things or places that you'd recommend? You know, it could be a food, a beverage, a site to visit, example, the ACC tournament or something like that. That's probably what I would say.
Well, let me tell you, there's no way I can limit it to one or two. And I do talk about the district all the time. But if people are coming to, in fact, one of my colleagues, the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee, I sat in the Foreign Affairs Committee, and our chair, he's now the ranking member, but he's our chairman last term, Greg Meeks, came here because he had a relative who was graduating from North Carolina A&T State University.
Aggie
and
Pride.
so before he, yes, Aggie Pride, before he came, I said, well, Greg, let me offer some things that I can do for you. I got him a tour of the Tanger Center, which he thought was incredible because I'm so ecstatic with how spectacular that performing arts center
I know we're
is.
short on time, but you played a major role in that.
What I love is that building is constantly full of people from all across the community and all across the district who go there and just love what they see. We took them to the LeBauer Park right across the street. You can't visit Greensboro without visiting the International Civil Rights Museum, which is really shows where the sit-ins started and how we got there. I encourage people to go, at LeBauer Park, we have that Janet Eckelman sculpture that's hanging over that big lawn. When she is a world-renowned artist, so it's important for people to know what we have there. We have that great Brenner's Children's Museum. We have the Historical Museum. We have, of course, I encourage people to go to A&T and see that statue that honors the Greensboro Four, to go to UNC Greensboro and go to the Weatherspoon and see that. We have some really spectacular art there. I want people to go, of course, we've got a great science center if they have families. When it comes to food, it's hard for me to narrow it down because we have so many great restaurants. I do think that if people have the time to go to Dame's Chicken and Waffles, they're not going to leave hungry.
Right.
If they need to drive through, go to Cookout. My kids still love to do that when they come home. Maxie B's if you need sweets. Or we have great ethnic food, great Asian food, great, I should say, barbecue. Because if you're going to the Coliseum for a concert or for a tournament, you got Stamey's right across the street. We have great hotels, whether it's O. Henry proximity or the historic Magnolia House, where if you go there and you learn about some of the great Black artists, athletes, political leaders who stayed there, it's we've got a lot to see. If people want to come for one night, I say they're not staying long enough. They need to stay longer.
Speaking of UNCG, I know some people that still call it WC, Women's College. Yeah.
Well, it is a great. It had a great start because they were educating women long before everybody understood how important it was to educate women, and now it is. It's really. It's got the most diverse student population in the state. And they really help people transform their lives. It's another. We have some great universities and colleges in this district, and I'm so proud to represent them all.
Are we still keeping our students, or are they leaving, or do you know?
Well, we're working hard to keep our students, and the more we bring in great businesses like Toyota, like Boom that's coming in at the airport that's going to build those Sonic airplanes and help us. You know, we are an aviation hub here with Honda Jet and some of the other companies that work in the aerospace industry. So as we build these big businesses, we'll be able to keep our students here. But we also have great, innovative small businesses. If you look at Jeff Foster and Foster Industries, I think it's his company. He and his wife have started this business that is now a great homegrown business that shows what you can do if you are innovative. And they also pivoted during COVID and got a lot of press for doing great things for the country. We've got all kinds of startups and that are no longer even startups that are helping us build our economy. So for young people who want to live someplace where things are more affordable than the big cities, people are nice, and yet we've got all the culture and athletics and good food that you can get anywhere else. I tell people they need to come visit Greensboro.
And before you get out, I do want to ask you one question. You know, for those that tune into the podcast, which you can check it on YouTube and then anywhere you get your podcast, but how can we keep up with what's going on with your office in the North Carolina 6th District? You know, what websites or other social media handles can you share with us?
Absolutely. First of all, people should go on my website. It's manning.house.gov. And they can sign up for my monthly newsletter. We send out a very comprehensive monthly newsletter, but we can't push it out to people. You have to actually go on the website and sign up to get the newsletter. You can also find all kinds of interesting information on the newsletter. If you need help with a federal agency, I have extraordinary people working in my district office where they can help you with anything from if you haven't gotten your tax refund, if you're trying to get your Social Security benefits, if you need a passport in an emergency situation, whatever federal agency, veterans benefits, we work really well with veterans now, particularly those who we can now help under the PACT Act that we passed that is helping veterans who are exposed to toxic burn pits. So,
I'm a vet and was exposed to that.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
well,
so,
go call, or you can call our office at 336-333 5005, and we have great people who work with veterans all the time, and we actually help push forward the opening of that the new veterans home that's in Kernersville for retired vets who need assistance, and that it's a beautiful facility, but it was delayed, and we kept pushing and pushing to get it open. You can follow on Twitter. We're at Rep K Manning. Facebook, we're Congresswoman Kathy Manning, and Instagram, Rep Kathy Manning. So we cover the waterfront on all those social media platforms. But as I said, go on our website, manning.house.gov, or call our district office if you need help. We're there to help you.
Not only will they have heard your response, we're going to put it in the comment section, but
Right.
I'm also going to note that's Manning, MANNING.house.gov.
Exactly.
Congresswoman Kathy Manning, thank you very much for stopping by Talk City Greensboro, spending a little time with us. Margaret, thank you and all the staff for setting this up for us. And please come back anytime you want to talk to us.
Thank you for asking me, and I look forward to seeing you again in the future.
Okay. All right. Stay tuned in weekly by subscribing to Talk City Greensboro on iTunes, Pandora, and Google Play. And don't forget, you can download Talk City from SoundCloud. That's it for this week. Thank you for tuning in to Talk City. Be sure to watch GTN, your official source for news and information about the city of Greensboro. GTN is available on Spectrum, Channel 13, AT&T, UVerse Channel 99, and Lumos 31. GTN also streams live on Roku and the city's website at greensboro-nc.gov.